Welcome everyone to another episode of the Train Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Today in the Train Studio update, I'm working again on the 28mm diorama project. Just showing you a few bits of progress that I made last night. It's around noon hour today, and just getting going. Did a few things this morning and just left them to dry, so I'm kind of back at the project and actually working on the physical pieces right now. Before I talk about the board itself, I just want to update. Over here, I was talking about doing the dead tree and adding some foliage to that. So what I'm going to use, maybe I should get another light here. What I'm going to use for that is this Woodland Scenics product. It's called a dead leaf foliage, and it's kind of this almost like a seafoam sort of sprig, and it's really sporadic and kind of barren of any sort of vegetation, and it's pretty nice because it's got this kind of hard to see, but it's kind of got this dead sort of leafy color. It's a more of an olive and really contrasts nicely. It's got a few hues of like a reddish orange in there as well, just to kind of signify those dead leaves. So I thought that would look good on the tree, but I wanted to indicate that there was still a little bit of life and kind of indicate what type of tree this was. So as you can remember, I've got these trees here for the product, for the rest of the project. So obviously the coloration, that's it's been sort of darkened down and sort of turned gray. But I wanted to indicate, the same sort of foliage type, and this is a little bit different than this. So what I did is I took some, try to get paint on that. I took some of the same color. Sorry, actually, I started with an olive color. So this color here, compared to this, you can see is a little more olive, but compared to this, it's still too green. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to find a happy medium between this and the dead leaf foliage. And what I did is I took some paint. I used some green brown, and I created a little bit of a slurry, sort of paint, almost not quite an ink, but more a liquid paint, liquefied, and created this sort of olive color. So I'm hoping that when I mix that in with the dead leaf, which I've done here, it's going to give a nice contrast. Not too, not too much blending there. So the fact that you can't, pick out which is which. But I wanted to keep something that was kind of similar in texture and close in color. So I'll probably do some of this stuff around the top of the tree, and to signify it's got a little bit of life, kind of just clinging to the tips. And then I'll bring that dead leaf foliage down here, and I'll obviously leave some bare patches as well. So right now that's just drying because, like I said, I used a real liquefied paint, and it made it quite wet. So it's going to take a little while. I use a hairdryer to kind of speed up the process, but going to let it really harden up and dry well. You guys saw the progress on the bridge, and I had mentioned doing the rest of the table last night in terms of this, but when I got to the project, I realized that I really shouldn't do that until I actually get the grass patches laid in, so that kind of delayed that whole process. So what I did instead is I went ahead and repainted the green, so I've done that, and then I painted all this down here green, but what I realized, it was way too bright down here, and I was curious last night when I went to bed what I was going to do to kind of combat that. So what I did is I came in with a dark mud color, an enamel ink, and I went over that to kind of dull down the hue. I don't need to do that up here because I want to keep this kind of lush. And then I decided that if I have this as the green grass and this is the green grass, and by green grass I mean this color here, so that's going to be basically there. I didn't want it to be too stark in contrast. I really like this mixture, as you can, hopefully the camera's picking that up, but this is a mixture that I've made and designed and I really like it because it's got a lot going on and it's really busy, and you don't need to add layers because the shade of this is already enough to give you that sort of plush look. So I want to bring that down into the table. So what I've decided is I'm going to come in a little bit on this hilltop here, and a little bit kind of creeping in here, but mostly here I'm going to use these tufts. So there's the combination of the tufts, and I'm going to basically sporadically put the tufts all throughout here. A little bit on that back corner, some green, and then obviously along here, right up to the road edge, and then I'll sort of blend this, and then this will be the transition area here with, you know, tufts and grass, and then I can use the grass here, and then the grass the rest of the way here, and the rest of the way here. And I think that'll turn out all right, kind of keeping this a little more drab down in here, you know, swamp area. So that's basically what I'm looking to do right now, kind of the next sort of process. I also went ahead and put that drain in with the water effect. I realized afterwards I glued the wall in and I forgot to create a little barrier for the wall, so I put the first liquid in knowing that it was basically going to disappear, and it did. I put it in, it was almost like a real drain. I put the water in and it just drained right out. So I'm thinking that it's probably somewhere underneath this wall. It wasn't enough really to create any problems, and honestly it's just going to secure the bottom of the wall that much more. I knew that it would find glue eventually and stop, so I basically filled it up until it stopped running, left it to dry, and then refilled it, and I think it seems to be holding well now. So that's kind of the drain look. So I think that turned out quite nice. You know, it's got a little bit of vegetation growing up there, as it should. You know, it's feeding the vegetation. And the other part of the project that I've been working on was just a little sample of the swamp, and I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this, and hopefully give me some feedback if it's looking okay. So this is what I kind of envisioned for the water itself. So there we are, you know, this sort of swampy field grass sort of sticking up. I have this, it's called fine leaf foliage, and it's actually supposed to signify leaves, but I really like it in terms of duckweed and kind of that, you know, that surfacey sort of plant life that you often see on ponds. So from above it kind of looks like that, and obviously from angles you guys can kind of just give me a little bit of feedback on if that looks alright. I really like the look myself, so I'm hoping that you guys also find it kind of unique and looking alright. So, and then like I said, it's just going to be, I'm going to do that along here. I think what I'll do is I'll stick with the grass and the duckweed mainly around the rock sections. I just think that would be a great accumulation point, and I think that'll be enough. So, you know, there'll be another little patch here. I may have a little bit flowing out, maybe a little bit down here, and then on the back side here, and then maybe a larger patch of grass in here, and then, you know, just some other things. But as you can see, I'm really kind of getting into the little details and the fiddly bits here. So I'm going to lay down some grass and kind of work in different sections. I want to just be careful that I'm not doing too much foliage at the same time, because a little bit of glue and it tends to stick all over. So I'm going to get this done, and then hopefully I can kind of shield off sections as I'm working it, just to keep the foliage from really getting into the nooks and crannies of places I don't really want. So apologize for kind of the long update there, guys, and I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of everything that was going on today. So stay tuned and check me in the next video, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the project. Thanks for watching. Cheers.